Hello, so today we're going to talk about simplifying some algebraic expressions, and we're going to talk about variable and expressions. So let's get started. What is a variable? That variable is that letter that represents the unknown value. So this would be a term, 2x squared, and it means 2 times x squared. That's how you would say it. You wouldn't say 2x to the 2. You wouldn't say 2 plus x to the 2. You would say 2 times x squared. The number in front of the variable is called a coefficient. The x is the variable and the 2 is the exponent. And this is kind of, it is a polynomial term. It's a monomial, but in this case it's algebraic also. Expressions are numbers, symbols, and operations that are grouped together to represent a pattern. And 2x plus 1, 2a plus 3b minus 1, they're both expressions. And why I'm telling you that is because now you're going to make some of those expressions. You would say this would be 2 times a number plus 1 in addition to 1. This would be 2 times a number plus 3 times another number decreased by 1. And that's how you would do that. So here we have a couple sentences and then their expressions of how you would put them. Write an algebraic expression for each phrase. Let x be the unknown number. The sum of a number in 3, that's x plus 3. The product of a 3 and a number is 3 times x. The quotient of 7 3/10 and a number is 7 3/10 divided by x, or 7 3/10 divided by x. You'd have to look at the answer because it's a multiple choice test. The answers would be different. 10 decreased by a number, 10 less than a number. 10 decreased by a number is 10 minus x. But 10 less than a number is x minus 10. Know the difference between those two. 5 times a number increased by 7. That's 5 times x plus 7. That is how you write those expressions. And the key words are sum, product, quotient, decreased, and times. So x minus y, we're substituting the negative 5 in for the x and the positive 4 in for the y, and we bring down the sign because that is part of the problem. And then negative 5 minus 4, two signs are the same, keep the sign, add the number. So you would have a negative 9. 9 minus x divided by y plus 6. And then you would write in the negative 5 in for the x, and remember to bring down the sign. And then the two negatives make it a positive, and I kind of put them in a different color so you could see that I made them positive. And 9 plus 5 is 14, and then 4 plus 6 is 10. But you can't divide 14 divided by 10 and come out with a good answer. You can reduce them to 7/5 and then write out a mixed number, or you can leave it as 7/5. Again, you'd have to look at your answers and see what they would want. This one is an absolute value of x plus 2z minus 8y. I talked about absolute value in the integers lesson, which is already on there, and I just looked at it to see what was involved, and you would understand absolute value. If you don't at this point, you would go back to the integer lesson video and review that. But we would put in our negative 5, and then we would have 2 times z, which is z is equal to 10, 2 times 10. And then we would have negative 8 or minus 8 times y, which is y was the 4. And then we would combine, we would simplify those two on the end here, 20 minus 32. Anything in the absolute value ends up being positive, so it ends up being a positive 5. And then we would just add and subtract from left to right. So you have 25 minus 32, and you would get a negative 7. Two signs are different. You subtract the numbers and you go with the sign of the bigger number. Next up is the simplifying expressions, and I didn't really put the answers on the board because I want you to follow along with this one. We have 8r minus 11r. Well, you would just do 8 minus 11. Signs are different. Subtract the numbers. 11 minus 8 is 3. The sign of the bigger number is negative, so it would be a negative 3. And then you bring that variable with it. They're matching, right? 8 rabbits minus 11 rabbits, you're going to be in the hole for negative 3 rabbits. Negative 3r, however you want to look at it. Then you have negative 5y minus 7 plus 6 plus 13y. Combine like terms. Combine like terms. You're going to put together the terms that match. Negative 5y plus 13y minus 7 plus 6, I'm sorry. And then negative 5y plus 13, same thing as 13 minus 5, and that would be 8y. And then negative 7 plus 6, well, that would be negative 1. And that would be that answer. And then we have 8c minus 5 minus 9. You could do negative 9c plus 8c minus 5. The only two that you can combine are just the c's. And you would get a negative 1c minus 5. And that would be the right answer, but the answer that they're probably going to give to you on the test would be a negative c minus 5. They never put the 1 in front of the variable. If it's a 1, it's just known that it's a 1. It's assumed that you know that that's a negative 1c. Then we have, I put a, couple things here for you to look at and understand what you're combining. You're combining like terms. So you have 2a plus 4a minus 7b minus b, and then you have negative 1 plus 13. And I usually signify them by lines, by underlining the ones that go together. You do it however you need to, but that's how I do it. So those single lines are the A's, the double lines are the B's, and the triple lines are just the regular numbers. And now you can combine like terms. 2 plus 4a is 6a. Negative 7b minus b is going to be negative 8b. And negative 1 plus 13 is going to be that plus 12. That's the same thing as 13 minus 1. And this would be your final answer for that one. Next up is using distributive property. I'll get it. Distributive property. Simplify by using distributive property. And what you have here is whatever number is on the outside of the parentheses has to be multiplied with what's on the inside of the parentheses. So I usually write my little arrows and I say 4 times x plus 4 times 9, and then it's just 4x plus 36, and that would be my final answer. Then I have a negative 4 on the outside with 3n minus 1 on the inside, and again I am multiplying the outside with what's on the inside. Negative 4 times 3n and negative 4 times negative 1. And then I have negative 4 times 3n is going to be a negative 12n. And at this point, you should know your multiplication for your integers. And again, if you don't understand those and you can't find them in your notes, you can go back to the integer lesson because they're on there. And a negative times a positive is a negative, and a negative times a negative is a positive. And they're all explained on the integer lesson video on this YouTube channel. And then here we have a couple things happening. We have to distribute, and then we have to subtract that 11. So let's see what we have here. Negative 7 times 2a. Negative 7 times negative 1 minus 11. And I get negative 14a plus 7 minus 11. And I can combine these two. And I'm going to write it over here because I'm kind of running out of room. And I would get negative 14a, that's a 1, and then I would say negative 4, because 7 minus 11 is negative 4. And now I have some distribution here, and what I want you to do is realize that this negative on the outside of this parenthesis still affects what's on the inside of that parenthesis. It is like having that imaginary one that comes back and haunts us all the time, and we would multiply that first. So this would be negative 1k and then a negative 7. Then we would bring down the sides and we would combine like terms, and we have a negative 1k and a 10k. And at this point, after I've done these, I'm not writing that next line. You just know that 10 minus 1 is 9k. You're combining the like terms. And I have a negative 19 and a negative 7. And 9 and 7 is 16. And carry the 1. So I'm going to have a negative 26. And that would be your final answer for that. And I believe that concludes our lesson for simplifying expressions. Thank you.